Hey, Bruce Naylor here, Frugal Tech. How are you? I'm doing something a little bit different in this video, and I'm kind of using the old Typical Geeks format that me and Jack McLean used to do, that show. Right now, I'm going solo, but I'm keeping my eyes open for maybe somebody to co-host a kind of revamped version of Typical Geeks, and if you might have an interest in that, let me know in the comments down below. But there's basically the topics I'm going to be covering today is some channel updates, responding to a couple of viewer comments, and then kind of talk about, what's going on with AMD and Intel, because it affects us all that are PC enthusiasts and just love our computers. So that's what I'm doing right here, and I'm using, that's kind of interesting, I'm back to using my old Audio-Technica AT2020 microphone, and then I'm using a Logitech C920 webcam, and we're recording this in Open Broadcaster for Mac. Some people doesn't know that there's a version for Mac. It's kind of a universal version of Open Broadcaster, so it can support Linux, Mac, and PC, as well as there's a dedicated Windows version, which has more features to it, but it only records up to 720p for me for whatever reason, which is fine. It's adequate. And so, yeah, that's how I'm recording this right now. And to get started on this thing, I want to give everybody a quick channel update. So we're going to bring that up here right now. And I haven't really shared much with you in a while for that. But here's what I can tell you. We're at 6,776 subscribers as of today. In the last 28 days, 44,582 views. There actually went down a smidgen. And I think some of that's got to do with being summertime, and maybe YouTube viewership is down somewhat. But 346 new subscribers in the last 28 days. And so the channel is growing. And that's what I'm really happy about. The channel continues to grow. And I couldn't be more pleased. Some of the things I'm going to be talking about in the near future, I'm going to actually concentrate on some inexpensive hardware for people, some tablets, maybe some stick PCs, maybe some of these new low-price convertibles. And, of course, soon I will be hopefully ordering my Surface 3 tablet. But now I wonder, I know that Surface Pro 4, the rumor is maybe getting released right around the time Windows 10 launches. I wonder if there'll be a revision of the Surface 3 around that time as well. Interesting question. It's a dilemma. Guys, I read a comment the other day. When is a good time to buy a PC? Because there's always a faster, better, newer around the corner every 6 months. And that's a tough question. I think the best answer I can give anybody on that is, if you need one and you can utilize it, and if it's going to make your life better now, go for it. Because there's always going to be better, faster, cheaper down the road. That's just the way that's the way PC thing goes, the computing business. Anyhow, I want to get to some viewer messages. So let's start right here. And come on, there we go. Boom. This is Husky Brew has actually written to me a couple times, and which you can. I do reply to the private messages on YouTube as well. And he says, "Hey, hi Bruce, I'm working. I'm sorry." He says, "Hi Bruce, I'm wondering if you had a moment that I could ask you for some advice. I got a 2009 iMac showing its age. Considering the purchase of a new computer this time around, and I'm opting to switch to PC." That's a big jump. Making that change. Hopefully you won't lose a lot of money in software and so forth. Anyhow, it goes, "I really can't decide between going for a desktop or a laptop." That's very common. That is a dilemma so many people face. I'm having a hard time. I like the idea of the being able to customize a PC and upgrades. I feel need to, and getting more bang for my buck. However, A laptop is really tempting mainly for portability. Operative word, portability. Though I can be clumsy at times and the lack of upgrading options would mean it'd be redundant sooner than a desktop and I'll have to buy again. I would like a PC for general web surfing, light basic video editing, Premiere Elements, music making, and recording possibly on the move. Another key word right there, possibly on the move. And a bit of gaming. Want the games to look good now and for the next few years. Short of a gaming laptop, right, which is really expensive, we've got a few things to talk about. Now, he actually messaged me back later and said that he has a budget of about $750 USD. This clearly rules out a powerful gaming laptop. That's totally out of the question in that kind of budget. Triple that budget and you get started. No, but you're certainly spending at least twice that amount or more. So my question is, can you build your own PC? If portability is a factor, but you want all this upgradability, okay, we're going to say that a laptop's out. Maybe build your own small form factor PC. Get this like a mini ITX type case, and put yourself together a small form factor PC. Something that's easy to pick up, carry, take with you if you go out recording music, something like that. But a small form factor PC makes a lot of sense in this particular case, and you'll be able to go within budget. The graphics card, when you're talking about gaming looking good, it kind of goes this way. The graphics card should get the preponderance of your budget, and then the CPU and the RAM. You want to have at least 8 gigs of memory, and at least I'd probably recommend like a quad-core i5. And I mean, there's people who can game somewhat okay on a i3, but I would say go with a quad-core i5, and then the graphics card is where you got to get some value looking around at that graphics card on that. Moving along, this is a comment to a response to a video that was titled "Google Photos Just Kicked Apple's Ass." This is made right after the keynote at this was right after the Google keynote, and they released Google Photos. At the time of this video, iCloud storage was much more expensive and limited for the storage of photos and video. And here's Google offering Google Photos app, which is brilliant, by the way, works great. There's a client for your PC, your Mac. It works great with iOS and Android. And the catch, the big deal is that it is unlimited. Okay? It's an unlimited storage. There is no cost. Okay? It's not 100 gigabytes. It's not a terabyte. It is unlimited. And how can it's tough to compete with that. With for free. And I understand that Apple, has to make a profit and all that, but they need to come down on the price of the storage. And that's why I said Apple kind of had its ass handed to it by Google in this particular area. Here's what Will says. House full of Apple, and gives us the line, Google Photos just kicked Apple's ass. Apple gives people reasonable solutions at a price that is also reasonable. Let's stop right there. Wow. First, you made the assumption that I got a house full of Apple products. How do you know what I got? Because you've seen a MacBook Pro in a video? Okay, look. I have a MacBook Pro, one Apple tablet, which I am putting up for sale. Haven't got it sold yet. iPad Air, the original, and an iPhone 6. That's the Apple products I own. My wife has a 2010 MacBook Pro. That's all the Apple products we have. It is not a house full. That's number one. I have a custom gaming PC. I have a Dell XPS 8700. I have 4 Windows virtual machines. I have a Linux box excluded from the virtual machines. No, it is not a house full of Apple. Now, the next part of your statement. Reasonable solutions at a price that is also reasonable. Well, who determines reasonable? And I would think that it's the market in general is who determines what is general and what is reasonable and what is not reasonable. in my opinion, the 2015 MacBook is not reasonable. It's not reasonable in price. It's not reasonable in performance for what you pay for it. It is not a reasonable device. And I don't know too many tech reviewers recommending people run out and get one of those. Now, eventually, just like the MacBook Air, I think it will come down to a price probably around that $999 price. Better performance, better specs, maybe 2 USB-C ports on it instead of 1. Then it's reasonable. As it sits now, it's not reasonable. Now, if Apple is doing something I don't think is right, I'm going to call them out on it. If they do something great, I'm going to call them out on that too. Well, not call out, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure people know I think it's a good thing. I'm going to do the same thing with Microsoft. I'm going to do the same thing with Google. I'm going to do the same thing with other companies out there. If they do something great, great. I'm going to mention it. If they do something I think is not great, I'm going to bring that up as too. But don't let your definition or my definition of reasonable get in anybody's way. Let the market decide what is reasonable and what is not. $350 for an Apple Watch, to me, is a waste of money. It's unreasonable in my mind. To somebody else, it may be very reasonable. But I find, to me, it's not a reasonable product to begin with. That's my opinion. Nobody else has to share that opinion or agree with me. The market is what determines what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. Okay? So I just wanted to bring that up. Will, I'm not picking on you. I always appreciate people commenting and so forth. But I don't like to be painted with this broad brush because I happen to own Apple products that I'm an Apple fanboy, or that I shouldn't say anything negative about Apple. Same thing with Windows. The same thing applies. This is just the way it goes. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about also in this recording is right here, Intel. This is a company with a $152 billion market cap, shares trading at $32.07 right now, and you're looking at a one-year graph of their stock, and you can see that over a course of 1 year, we've seen a decline in the stock price of Intel, not drastic, other than a spike around the holidays. I would almost call it flat. I would almost call it really flat. If you invested in Apple, in Intel, a year ago, you paid around $30 a share for it, and a year later, you're at $32 a share for it. So, that's not great. But that's what's justifying them having a layoff. And that's what I want to talk about, the Intel layoff. So what is going on right now? So let's talk about that. I got to use the shot switcher here. There we go. So Intel is basically saying that they had to reforecast their PC chip business sales downward in 2015 for weak demand, and also weak demand in their mobile chips, as apparently they've lost something to the tune of $4 billion in the mobile chip market. So what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to make, this according to an article in the Oregonian, job cuts are connected to Intel's April announcement that it will cut its annual administrative and R&D budget by $300 million. Chipmakers adjusting spending after slow PC sales forced Intel to adjust its 2015 sales forecast. Okay. Look, I think most of us, at least the folks that watch my channel, know that Intel has pretty much given us minor updates with each tick and talk recently of its desktop PC and mobile PC chips. It's very, it's the enthusiasts out there that buy the high end, generally speaking, buy the high end i7s, quad core i7s, they buy the hexa-core CPUs, etc. It's a tiny, tiny segment of their market. But As Linus Sebastian said, these people are influencers. And I mean, there's people going out there buying machines, getting 47, like the 4770K, not even knowing why they should have one, but that's because, their favorite YouTuber is recommending it. And so Intel's selling a buttload of those things. But they're not innovating quickly. Why is that? Well, there's a chief reason. If we remember all the way back to the time that AMD introduced the Athlon processors, remember those? The Athlon dual cores, the Athlon 64 dual core machines. Intel was playing catch up with AMD. And AMD offered real value and alternative Intel, and it was looking pretty intense. AMD was going up, 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 and Intel was going down, 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 down. Hang on, let me get a little drink of water here. And now that has that's changed somewhat, and AMD is no longer doing well. In fact, AMD is not, and the CPU side of things has not done anything great in years. Well, it's been like 5 years. We're on the bulldozer architecture for their FX desktop CPUs. People believe they're underpowered. They require too much energy. They run hot. Nobody really considers AMD when they're building a serious gaming rig or high-performance machine. They just don't give AMD a whole lot of thought. That's AMD's fault. Now, guess what? Intel rests on their laurels. And instead of getting major upgrades, at least every other generation, we're going really, the talk is now Skylake. So we had Haswell, that was a talk. The tick is Broadwell, which, where the hell is Broadwell for the most part? Don't even see them out on desktop PCs right now. And it's going to be a very short-lived product, as Intel says we're going to introduce Skylake this fall. And Skylake is a talk, so it's a change in the architecture. But the difference in performance between Skylake and Haswell doesn't justify the cost of a major upgrade. And so, here's the thing, and they also kind of changed the naming conventions. The 4770K, which is in the 4770 CPU, into the i7 4770, the Intel i7 4770 or 4770K, probably the most popular performance desktop chips out there on the market currently. They're not going to have this 6770K. They're going to have the no, they're actually using a different naming convention. The unlocked i5 and i7 model is the 6600K and the i7 6700K. Just bringing that up there for you. But let's look at these charts right here now. Right here we have AMD, the FX 8350. And then this is their high performance enthusiast CPU, the FX 9590. Look at these scores compared to a 4790K. Quite a bit of difference. Uses a lot more energy, a lot more heat. That's why people's going to go for that. But you can definitely get these cheaper. Okay. But let's look at what the real story is. Let's look at the difference between the 4790K, which is a little bit souped up version of the 4770K. Not much, but a little bit. Then let's look at the new mainstream 6700K. We're talking like 10% maybe increase in performance. Hardly worth it to make that upgrade, in my opinion. This is what is hurting Intel. These small little increment, updates in performance for the dollar. It doesn't make worth getting a new CPU and potentially new motherboard and all this other stuff to get that extra performance. It's not a big enough jump, and that's what we've seen. Heck, I've got a Dell XPS 8300, I think is what it is. It's running the 2700 i7. Yeah. I mean, it goes back. That thing still flies. It still is great. This is what's hurting them. And what I'm alluding to, folks, at the end of the day, it is because AMD has literally dropped the ball. If you don't believe me, let's look here. Numbers don't lie. All right, here we go. Let's look at their stock price. Remember, Intel is a $152 billion company. AMD, $2 billion. Stock price, $2.58 a share. That is many, many times more in size than AMD. So AMD has really screwed the pooch on this thing. Let's look at a 5-year history of AMD. Wow. 5 years ago, their stock was trading around $8 a share. Now it's down to $2.58 a share. 2/3 value gone. So if you were a stockholder in AMD, you're not a happy camper. They've been sitting on their asses for 5 years. What can AMD do? This is not their only battle, though. This is not their only battle because they have their CPU stuff, but they also a player in the GPU market with the ATI acquisition, right? The AMD, the Radeon. There's a problem there. Okay, so let's move on. What could AMD do about it? Well, here we go. To be launched in 2016, the Zen architecture for their new desktop PC chips. Zen. So the Zen architecture calls for 40% more instructions per clock. And it's going to be able to offer what's called simultaneous multi-threading, or SMT, the ability to track and execute multiple threads per core, which is great. And it can be extended beyond 2, but they're capping it at 2 threads per core. Sound familiar? Okay. It should. New high bandwidth memory, low latency cache system. First silicon to market in 2016. Be using a chip fab called a FIN FET. And so basically it's a 3D type transistor is what they're using on this. I'm not talking a lot about the performance, but they are saying that this is going to put the AMD back on the map. And so it's going to be power efficient, a lot of cores, simultaneous multi-threading on those cores, faster memory. It's going to be a much more of a high-performance chip and a much better competitor to Intel. And I couldn't be happier to see AMD doing this. This is a little tiny company. Now, they're competing not only against Intel, but remember, they're also competing against NVIDIA as well in the GPU market. And that's another thing. That's maybe a show or a video for another time. What's better, AMD or NVIDIA? AMD will be bringing the Fury X, I believe this was called, to market, which is going to be their top of the line GPU to compete right against the new NVIDIA Titan video card, which it's going to be about $250 cheaper, roughly. So yeah, I like what I'm liking what I'm hearing from AMD. Here's my hope. At the end of the day, I hope that a revived AMD. I'm telling you, Intel needs AMD to stay in business. Because if AMD was to suddenly fold up shop, yeah, you got it. There's going to be a massive antitrust case going on with Intel. They don't want to be broken up because that could happen. That could literally happen. They need AMD. They believe me. They're praying. They're praying for AMD. Maybe they deliberately slowed down to give AMD a chance to catch up. Come on. Give us a little bit of competition. So we keep Uncle Sam off our back. I don't know. I really don't know. But that's it. I think that's the thing. Hopefully a very focused AMD can bring a CPU, a high-performance CPU to the desktop market. The laptop market, gaming market, recaptures some of that imagination, that spark. They've got to be at least equal to Intel or very close in performance, but a much better price. That will also win a lot of hearts and minds. I'm liking what I'm seeing, what they're doing with their APUs. An APU is a combination of CPU and GPU all in one. That's looking pretty interesting. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping to see happen, is that the AMD gets their act together and becomes more of a serious competitor to Intel. Then we'll see Intel start to move. Start giving us some real performance upgrades and concentrate on giving us more than these little 8%, 10% type incremental updates, because it's just, that's what's killing their numbers. There's no compelling reason, I think now, for most people to purchase the higher end chips, because the last generation that they bought was just as good. Well, maybe not just as good, but it's still adequate. That's it. That's all I want to say in this video. So hope you like it. I want to hear your comments down below. I'll talk to you.